Hi, I'm Jamie.
I'm Jen.
Welcome to our podcast, All Things Unbroken.
Life breaks us in ways we never expect, but God rebuilds us in ways we could never imagine.
So come hang with us as we talk about relationships, motherhood, wellness, grief, recovery.
And the slow, beautiful process of becoming unbroken.
Hi, cousin. Good morning.
Hey, hello, baby cousin. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Well, it's afternoon, so it's just, I wish
Yeah.
it was still morning. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good. Thanks for meeting again. I know we've been chatting. Um, Before we get started, I don't think we've mentioned this. I just want to congratulate you. I don't think we mentioned this on the last one for your recent accomplishment for your
Oh,
certification.
we
No,
don't
no,
have to
no,
talk
no.
about that.
No, no, no. Just at least for a moment because it was a big
Okay.
thing and I know we're getting through the things, but I really just can you tell us what just happened? And please just tell I love it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
excited for you because it's been a very big prayer and I know it was stressful and I know you worked for it and all the emotions were happening and you did it and I just want to take a minute and say congratulations.
Well, I was not expecting that on this episode, but
I know.
thank you. I think it'd be fun in the future to do like an episode about job changes, but I think I'll leave that at that to keep it short. But with my job change, I had felt kind of a calling, not kind of, a calling into like the health and wellness space. And some things happened and some doors opened, and I made some pretty big and swift changes to pursuing health and wellness coaching. And so I did my program. I got on the master course to get in line with the national board certification. And this was pretty much like a full year process of like doing the basic, doing all the things, trying to start a business, getting my prerequisites to be able to sit for the exam. And then they only do it twice a year. And so I took it on March 18th, and that window closed like March 24th. And like 6 weeks later to the day, I got my email that was like, you passed. You're officially a national board certified health and wellness coach. So,
So
yay. Thank you for.
no, I just feel like it's May, it's busy. And
Yeah.
I think on another episode, we had chatted a little bit because real life, um, after the test, it took, a month and a half. And there was definitely some roller coasters and watching you walk through that and still continue on and knowing that no matter what happened, because obviously this is a hard test that you were like, no matter what, like I know God has a plan for me. I feel called to this. And then no matter what was going to happen, you were going to continue to do the business. And so this was just what we talked about. I think obviously you deserved it. And
Oh,
it's just a God wink to show you you're exactly where you need to be right now. So anyway, I just wanted to
yeah.
say congratulations. We could talk more. Yes, the job changes is
Thank
definitely be.
you.
Let's just write down on our little list of 1,000 things that we want to talk about. But
Yeah.
anyways,
I
so
think we
congrats.
did allude in like a recent episode about like, I feel I feel like doors that are opening and things that I'm walking in, I feel like I'm headed the right direction and the doors keep opening and like the road keeps rising to me. I think we did kind of talk about that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
part of it. So thank you. That was very sweet. It is a big, I'm usually a good test taker, but it was a weird, very nuanced, one of those ones where you leave going like, I don't really know how I did. And it's
And you
kind of a big
did it.
deal to have to do it again. So it's like, oh, thank you, Lord. I don't want to have to repeat that either. So anyway, thank you. Also this weekend was Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day. You're a
Yes, we
wonderful
already did.
mama.
Oh, you too. And we did our Mother's Day episode. So we
Yeah.
can kind of, yeah, we're good on there. But happy Mother's Day. You're a great mom. And summer's upon us. So
Mm.
here we go.
I
Here we
feel
go.
like this time of year is like Christmas without all the fun and the presents. Like it's just as busy every year. Like no matter the stage of life, there's always people around you. It's like graduations, weddings, end of the school year, summer starting, all the things. Like if we have dance going on, there's always like recital, rehearsal, all of that, trying to get the vacations in. And like already you look at summer and you're like, I feel like my whole summer is already booked. And that makes me a little sad. What
I
do you
know.
think?
Same.
Yeah.
Same. But I can't really get into it because I looked at my calendar today and June's already gone.
Mm,
And I'm embracing it. I'm embracing my daughter being her last one before she starts full-time school. And
yeah.
um, yeah, in these times with you that we have, getting to chat. And yeah, that's it. So
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
So you'll have to help keep me accountable this summer and remind me, like, put your phone down, be present with your kids. Like, I feel like we all need that reminder. I think you're really good at that. And I think you can tell me all the time, Jamie, forget
Aw.
everything else and go spend time with your kids because I'm kind of used to them not being here right now.
Yeah. Well, I will say, with the podcast, I've noticed I've been a little bit more on social just with us. Like, I know, so you do most of the editing and posting and whatever, but like with Facebook, I'm helping out a little. But I think that I am going to get away from like the personal page again. Cause like usually in the summers or in holidays, I will totally get off social media, like personal. And so I think that really this summer, I'm going to probably do about the same for a lot of it, at least a week at a time or a few days, and just maybe do a post for our podcast or whatever we need to do and then just get off of it. Cause there's just something about being in the moment where you are. And I don't want to
Hmm.
waste it away scrolling or doing anything and being
Right.
distracted. So let's remind each other of that for sure.
Yes, for sure. I
Okay.
have some work things that have to be, like maybe I'll set up some office hours or something and make it
Yeah.
clear to my kids, like, these are my office hours and everything else is yours, because
And I
we're
think that
going into
that's
high school
fine.
next year too. It's like we're
I
both in these
know.
transitions of like, oh,
I
but
know. No,
we're gonna
but I
we're gonna
think
make
that
it.
you just have to be intentional.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you don't need your phone, if you're not working, if we're not on a call, if we're not doing recording, whatever, it's okay to put your phone down and to walk away from it.
Yeah. Let's have intentional summer. Even if it's
Oh,
booked,
yeah.
even if it's busy, let's make it intentional summer.
I love that. Oh, let's go. All right.
Okay. Check in with me in a few months and
I
see
will.
how well I
You know,
did.
I will.
Okay. Okay. I don't want to cut out time for you sharing your
Oh, I
story
love
with me.
this. I am
So,
ready to get through it, though. I'm ready to get through it to move on to daily life of Jamie and Jen and what's going on in the world. So
yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. If people could just like be a fly on the wall in our conversations. But now they kind of now they kind of can be. So, okay. Let's bring it back to last time we talked. We were talking about how you found out your mom had passed away. It changed the dynamics of a relationship with your boyfriend at the time. And you guys had been together for, I think, 4 years or more at that point. And you mentioned a little bit how going through the grief, it kind of changed like your perception of the relationship, maybe how you were acting or responding or just everything. Like you said a few times, like everything changed. So do you want to pick
Hmm.
us up there?
Sure. Everything changed. That's like the motto of life
That's
for
your
all of
life.
us. For no,
Yeah,
for everybody though.
true.
Yeah, I think we ended it's so funny because I re-listen and I always cringe when I re-listen because I'm like, I should have said that. I shouldn't have said that. But I'm gonna try to be slow and concise and stay on track and maybe finish my sentences today. That's my intention for today. Um, so basically I think I ended on I had I was working and living in Florida. We had a townhome together and I had come home. One of my best friends was getting married that year and we had gone on a bachelorette party to the Keys. It was great. It was fun. I came home from that trip and like something in me was like, I just need a break from life. I need a break from this. So the job, which I was
Mhm.
also at over a decade, they were like my work family. They're amazing. Um, they let me get my headset, get my computer. I was a student advocate at that time for Caribbean Medical School. And I, at this time too, like there was not a such thing as remote back then. Like there was no such thing as remote a decade ago, by the way. It wasn't a
Yeah,
thing
not for the
for the
most.
most,
Yeah.
well, for the most part. But I moved back. I decided to come back and I moved in with my brother, Michelle. It was just like temporary. I had my dog and I had ended on I moved back and I was just gonna just take some time and figure it out. And at this time, I could feel myself kind of spiraling a little bit, like not making the best choices, um, pushing people away. At this time, probably even our family, I had probably started pushing some of y'all away. My brother had we had started pushing your family away a little bit as well. Do you know which kind of time period I'm talking? Do you remember this?
Kind of. I guess I forgot that you moved in with them, but that makes sense. I mean, it's just like temporary, right? But at the same time, you guys are both grieving you're both going through all the things and then you moved in with them? Do you feel like that
I
added
think
like
that,
a heavier
yeah, no,
dynamic to it?
no, I think it was good. I think at the time I was
Okay.
like, well, my family needs me. My family needs me. And in
Okay. So you
reality,
felt okay.
but I needed them is what it was.
Yeah.
So I, in my head, I think I said this in the last one, I'm going to move in just for a little bit. They set the office up, you know, and then I was literally there maybe a week or two. And I had decided that I didn't want to be in a relationship anymore. And this is when I broke up over the phone. He was like out of the country at work. And I remember exactly the moment because at this
Mm,
time it was so clear to me, like this was going to fix everything. But just like that look back in the day, like look at my pattern that I did. Like when I was in high school, I broke up with my long-term high school boyfriend. My mom started having more depression issues. Like that was all going on. Then you go to college and I eloped, right? And then my dad died immediately after he died. I moved to South Carolina. It's kind of a little pattern that I really look back and see that I was trying to like keep starting over, like a fresh start. And so this
yeah.
time, unfortunately, or fortunately, it was that I was going to end this 4 year, 4.5, almost 5 year relationship, the most stable thing that I had been in a long time, you know. Um, and I remember like he kind of thought I lost my mind. He's like, "Are you like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening? Like, come back to Florida." And I was just like, "Nope, this is what I'm doing."
Mm,
And that started a string of things because then from then until the next thing, I was back and forth because then it was like a control thing because then it was like I broke up with him, but then all of a sudden, like I wanted to be with him. And it started this whole thing. This started this whole mental
mm,
warfield inside of me, which looking back, I had made amends with him and his family and we're good. But I was not, I just wasn't a good, I wasn't emotionally stable at that time, to be real. Um, so that all happened. So I ended up, this is also when I was like starting to like run a lot outside, like run races and stuff.
mm,
Um, and I actually had my first half marathon. I think it was actually before my mom died. And I remember running it back and I was like, I'm never running again. But after she died, I started really leaning into running because one, I am not athletic. I was never been athletic ever. Okay. Um, I hated running. I couldn't even run down the block, but something in it, I met a friend back then and I just got really intrigued with like running half marathons and like just the endurance it took and the mental mindset and all the things. So I literally started running for my mental health. Like I was running, like started it, doing the things. Um, I started a blog. That's what we do, right? You go through traumas and you start the things. And I was going to run through all the states, all 50 states. And I started this blog and I was telling my story of how I lost my dad. You know, I was in an abusive marriage. I lost my mom to suicide. And here we go. I'm still standing. Like, here we go. Like, this is like me recreating myself back then. Like, looking back, that's exactly what I was doing. I was leaning in, I was reaching for things. I did at that time kind of start going back to church a little, so I was searching a little bit in that direction. Thank goodness, right? Like I was doing that. I ended up moving back to Florida after this happened. And that next year was pretty rocky. Um, I had really good friends there, but I moved in with him, out with him, you know, got my own
mm,
apartment at one spot. Then we got back together. It was a whole thing. I was trying to find myself. I was running. I thought I was healthy. I wasn't eating very much, but I was
mm.
literally, so I actually went to a therapist one time, within the last, I don't know, after I was married, I think, I don't know, but he explained it to this. He's like, whenever you go through like traumatic things and they compound and trauma and you either go really low, you get really depressed, or you go like super high.
Mm.
At some point, you have to come down from this high. Well, for many years, I was on this high, and anyone that knows me during that time knows exactly what I'm talking about because I was just like everything had to be positive, all the positive podcasts, all the positive sayings. I was posting positive things on Facebook. I was reaching for here. I was like the biggest like cheerleader, like live your life who you are, which is great. It sounds great. I think that's wonderful. But at the same time, going through the things that I'd gone through, you know, mom's depression, losing dad, being in that relationship, that first marriage, then her to suicide, then the things, and then not dealing with it kind of was like, it just, it wasn't healthy, I guess. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see looking
yeah.
back how you can see in hindsight of like, oh, you don't think you maybe handled it, or, you know, I, I just think it's okay to look back and honor and not have any shame about like starting a blog. Like, of all the things that people can do in a response to what their body's going through and all these feelings and things you don't know what to do with, like, I feel like you at least made a lot of really healthy choices, even though your nervous system probably wasn't stable at the time. Like, those are really great things.
Thank
And
you.
so, like,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you,
God
Jamie.
that you did that. And it's okay. That's where you were at the time. And I think
Thank
you
you.
already helped a lot of people. So
Mhm.
honor her. Whatever, what
Thank
year was
you.
that? 2013.
Oh man. 13, 14, 14.
Okay. Honor
Yeah.
2013, 2014 Jen,
Yes. Yeah. You
because she's
thank
doing what she
you.
needed to do.
Amen. Thank
Oh,
you. And this is why you're so good. And thank you, because you're right. Like, you look back and you're like, what would I tell myself 10 years ago? And I have healed through a lot of that. And so sometimes when I go down this path, it brings things up and I do have a little bit of regret because I did hurt a lot
yeah.
of people. Um, I did. And so moving forward, I had a very good group of friends. I had a good church in Florida. I did start kind of seeking some therapy and I started listening to podcasts. I mentioned Steve Furtick's podcast and all the things.
Mhm.
Um, and I leaned into running, which, it's not a terrible thing to do that. So I know I kind of sounded negative maybe a minute ago, but it was like my saving grace because I would get out there and I would literally think about like every time it started hurting me to run, I would like think about my mom and how she couldn't run and it would get me through the next mile. And that was kind of the blog. So it was called Journey Through the 50 States. So at one point I actually for my first race to do it. So I did a Miami half marathon and I did that one. I started training. So I did two marathons, like already kind of, Ohio because I live there. And I remember I rented a car. I got my own apartment and I rented a car and I think it was Georgia. Oh, yeah. I rented a little car and I drove to Georgia all by myself. And I ran, I think it was like my third step for my state half marathon. And I ran and I met a mom and we're still friends on social. I don't think she runs anymore, but I told her like my story of what I was doing it. And I just had this idea that I'm going to run through the 50 states in honor of my mom. And I was going to blog about every single state and what the states were and like why they were important. And that's what I was going to do. Okay. So that was 2014. So
I love
yeah,
it. I think it's a
yeah.
really like beautiful use of that energy and pain and everything that you were going
And
through.
yes, and it was. And then at this time also like my then on again, off again, that would have started being, we kind of were healing and we were like, had this dog together, we were sharing and he was more understanding. So we were actually talking about like getting back together. We
Mm.
actually kind of we went to therapy a couple times together because we really wanted to try to make it work. Um, but I was still in that like he doesn't really care about me. Remember, I told you the last one. It's like I told him not to ask me to marry him, so he didn't within the year. And then it's like I was like kind of like punishing him for that. It was just my brain
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense. I know. Um,
I
so anyway, we kind
I
and then at
think we
this
all do
point,
that to
yeah.
some
But then
extent.
yeah, you're laughing. I know. But then at this point too, like I had broken that trust. So all actions have consequences, right? No matter what, even though I was hurting, I lost my mom. It doesn't matter when we have actions have consequences, even though like maybe as you're saying, like obviously there was a lot there. You still have another human that have their own feelings. So I broke that trust. So there was a whole back and forth, as you can imagine. So fast forward just a little bit. I started doing that. And then at some point in the middle of all of this, I actually did, I think, move back in with him to try to make it work. And it just wasn't working. We are like, okay, this isn't working. Like, let's be friends, let's break up. And we were actually in an amicable, like, okay, I'm gonna start looking for apartments on my own again.
Mm.
And we're just gonna do this. We're gonna split. So this
Was
was
it just
back
not the
in
same? Like
it
you
was
guys.
not after you have someone move out, someone move back in. Obviously, anyways, for what we believe in marriage of what we do, it just wasn't working. Anyways, there was just no trust. I'd really broken his trust,
Mm.
unfortunately, and we weren't healing from that, and we were also still, in the midst of confusion a little bit, and I'm still going through my own thing, and I have my wall up and I hadn't really been through a lot of like healing as far as therapy and like being open and communicating and taking responsibility. Ooh, this is a good one. I wasn't taking responsibility for my actions. I was still sort of
Mm,
in that like victimhood of, I will kind of go back to where I said at one point too with my dad after he died. It's like, okay, after he died, I told everyone I was married. They really couldn't get mad at me because he had just died. I'm going to go. So it's kind of like at one point yes, I was very strong and doing the things and honoring my mom and like putting my energy there. But at the other point, I was not taking responsibility, maybe because I
mm,
couldn't, maybe no, I don't know why I wasn't taking responsibility for my actions. When I do that, when a person does that, it doesn't make them trustworthy because as you
right.
know, you've been through things and until someone takes responsibility in whatever relationship, they're
Yeah.
not going to be trusted, you know?
I feel like when you're kind of in survival mode, it's not like you don't care about the people around you. You just kind of can't even get there because, I mean, it could literally be that fight or flight thing that's happening in your mind. Like you're not thinking logically, you're just trying to survive. But I get
Correct.
it.
And I
I get
focus
it.
in on,
It
yeah,
still has impact on people around you.
right. And so it's really easy to look back and be like, oh, well, you just lost your mom and your dad and the things were happening. And it's real easy to say that. But then when you're actually on the other side of that and actually living through what that person has been through, it's a whole different conversation. So to
Yeah.
your question, it just wasn't recoverable at that time.
Yeah.
Um, so this happened within a year. Okay. So it was December of 2014, and I had been starting looking for apartments. And my best friend's brother-in-law, which is actually one of my best friends at the time, he's like my brother. We got really, their family was like my family. We were like talking about, like situations, like could I get an apartment or going to rent a house, whatever. I was looking, with moving in with him, being roommates, um, doing
So
the
it's like
things.
platonic kind of
Absolutely. He's literally like my brother.
fam. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, but we were very good friends. But anyway, that was all happening. We all had the same friend group. All of a sudden I get a phone call from the United States Air Force.
Oh,
Yeah, this is funny. It's not
I
funny. I
know.
know I'm
Yeah.
laughing. I'm laughing. But why am
No,
I
I get
illustrated?
it.
Um, it just brings me like full circle. So I get a call and they're like, they say, is this, Jennifer Gray? And like, yes, did you used to be called Jennifer? They said my old last name that I had. Yes. And they said, were you married to this person? Yes. This person has been charged by his current wife and an airman for assault. Would you
Mm,
be interested in answering questions? So this is what, 5 years, 6 years later? Okay. So this happens. So this can be a whole story or it doesn't have to be, but basically they they flew me. He was stationed in Italy and they flew me to Italy. This is the first time I'd been on a plane out of the country by myself. Now with work, I would go out of the country because our school was in a different country, but I always like was with my coworkers and my colleagues. So this is the first time, and obviously as a baby, I came over here, but not by myself. So this is the first time that they flew me there. And I remember at the time, like I really wanted my boyfriend kind of ex to like go with me. He couldn't from work. And so I kind of was like, oh, so okay. So I was gonna go myself. So they literally paid for my flight. I went to Milan, Italy. They put me up and I was a character witness to this person.
mm,
So very like in your face. I hadn't seen him in years. I had kind of forgiven the whole situation. He got remarried actually to someone that I grew up with, the sweetest person ever. Um, I won't go too much into that story, but her and I were reconnected again after not seeing each other for so long, and we're still friends. She's doing good, but he a lot of times with those situations, if you don't get help, it can get worse. I'm trying not to say too much because again, keeping it.
yeah. Well, this was several years ago. He could have, like, so many things could have happened. You're just kind of
Yeah,
recounting the.
Right, right. Yeah.
the
So
event.
you're right. I am. So I went and did that. Um I did take this. I don't know if I can go into this. I did actually, I didn't have to say too much, but I did take the stand and they only asked me a couple questions. Um, but ended up he got discharged from the military and he did have to go to like the military, I don't know if it's called prison, jail, whatever. He did have to do that. And then I flew back home. So I was there for 5 days. So that was kind of like, that was a lot, you know. Um, and looking back, we can kind of pause there because there was a lot of feelings back then. It's kind of like, back in the day, like when I was married after I left, if I would have pressed charges, if I would have done the things with this have happened. And there was also a lot of guilt
Mm,
there. And I've had to do a lot of healing from that as well in conversations. So you add those on top of all the other things that have happened in this last, however many years. Um, I don't know. I wish I would have paused back then and really gotten some help that I needed, but I didn't really know I needed the help because I was so positive. It was literally to the point like my best friend in Florida was like, Jennifer, not everyone can be positive. Like some people have to be negative. Like it was very like that.
yeah.
So
It
um
was like toxic positivity,
yeah,
probably to a point of like
probably.
we're like ignoring reality or
Mm,
something. But again, you were doing what you thought you had to do to
yeah.
get through.
Yeah. So I got back. So that was December 2014. Um, so it was not even a
So
year
it was
after mom died, or
wow.
it was about it. Yeah. Because she died
That
in, it wasn't even a year.
yeah.
And
I feel
then,
like that's a lot of emotion, a lot of grief, and a lot of change, and a lot of, I feel like you
memories.
said, just bringing that back up in the middle of everything else you're already going through
Yeah.
just sounds ridiculously heavy.
Right. It was, but when going through it, I didn't know. I thought I was making the best decisions. And I was at a really, like, I remember coming back from that trip and it was almost like a relief. Because
Mm,
first of all, I think for so many years, I did blame myself for things that happened in that relationship. And I think we talked about this. Well, we did. I blame myself for things. And it was almost like I don't know if this is right, but a validation that like I wasn't just crazy and made up these things in my head about him, but
mm,
it was kind of like, okay, but also then there's the guilt of like I didn't say anything, but it was more of a relief. And it was
yeah.
like, okay, like so me and this guy that had been together for almost 5 years, like we're gonna end this as friends. I have this new beginning. I'm looking at apartments, like I'm training, I'm running. I just gotten off of an injury. I had plantar fasciitis and I had some fractures and I was in a cast. I just got out of my cast. I was training for my next race in Louisiana. It was going to be, I think, in my fourth state. Okay. I was like, okay, like, let's go. I remember I went and I just felt really good after that. So I got back, I remember it. I got back
Was it
December
like
5th.
closure? Like,
It was closure. It was like,
yeah.
okay, like, this is like, I was in church again. So it was all the things happening. Like, I was really fighting to like move forward. I was really fighting to move forward. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the new beginning.
Mm,
Like, I really just remember that. You can even hear it. I remember just that, like, I'm breathing. This is closure. Like, she's safe now. Like, I've reconnected with her a little bit. We got to tell each other stories. It was kind of an interesting thing because our moms, when we were little girls, this other person, they were interpreters together at our church growing up. So that's how far
wow.
back I knew her. I hadn't seen her in years after that, but it's interesting how small the world is, right?
Yeah.
Um, so long story short, like, so that all happened. So literally, I got back December 5th. I remember that day. I mean, I'm telling you this because my next thing that's about to happen, I'm about to tell you. And I just remember I felt closure, like me and my then ex, on again, off again ex at this point. Like we were like, okay, like this isn't gonna work. Let's be friends. I will always like love and care for you as a friend. He's my best friend. Like, let's just move forward. Like we were ready. Let's go. I was gonna again, I brought up my friend, my best friend's brother-in-law, who was like my brother. We were gonna get an apartment together. We were looking, all the things. Fast forward to the beginning January, I got a promotion at work. I got a promotion at work when I got back. They literally like I had a position where they made it at this university that I adored. Um, and it was just a new start. I really felt it was a new start. So January 5th, 2015, 1 month after I got back from Italy, all these things I just told you. I signed, my best friend also at the time was expecting her first child. And so we we're all excited about that. And I signed my promotion. I signed the promotion agreement. I had just cleaned out my car the day before, because I say like when you clean out your car and you still have a fresh start, like I don't know, something about that.
It was like
And
new
I just
year,
do
closure,
you.
new
Let's go.
steps, all the things.
All the things.
I can feel it.
I had just started running again, and I literally my race was like in 2 weeks I think it was the end of January in Louisiana. Okay, I think it was Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Um, I literally was feeling great. Signed the document. I left work this day at lunch and pulled out, left work, whatever, pulled out, was making a left turn out of this building. And the next thing I know, I am pinned in my car and I can't feel my legs. And I remember, and I've already talked about this, we've talked about this before, but I remember, first of all, thinking, thank God my best friend's not with me because we used to go to lunch every single day together. Every day we went to lunch.
Oh.
And I was, the first thing I was thinking is like, thank God she wasn't. The second thing I was thinking is, are you serious? Like what's happening? And then I literally could not feel my legs. I was in shock. I was awake. Um,
Mm.
Someone came and pulled over. They came over and they're like, "Hey, are you okay? Turn off your car." It was actually one of our students. Because I worked in medical school. He was there for a program anyway. And a whole thing happened. And I think I've talked about this accident, but we can kind of touch on it. It was a pretty bad accident. Like they had to shut down the road. They had to life flight me. They used the jaws of life to get me out. Um, we can pause there because that was kind of a lot of information. But it was once again one of those things like everything changed. It's like it's
Changed.
kind of one of those things like you kind of have that little bit of hope, and
Hmm.
it's kind of like okay, and then it's just like you just get knocked down, and that's kind of where it was. But I'll tell you, whenever that was all happening, like I was so grateful to be alive. Um, and my best friend, like they said that inside the building that it sounded like a bomb went off. So like everyone ran outside. They were
Hmm.
like, it's Jen Gray's car out there. She walked out and thought I was dead because they had the curtain all around it and they had the whole road shut down. And so when that happens, like the person, like when they do that, like the person's not alive. Usually, that's like the word is called.
Golly. Yeah.
Um, but she said when they pulled me, because all they're worried about is your neck, and the way they had to get me out was the side. My legs dropped and I screamed, so she knew I was alive. So I ended up breaking. I broke my tailbone, I fractured my pelvis. Um, I will say, looking back at that moment, there was a fireman that was with me the whole time, and he talked to me the whole time. His name was Andy. I actually got to go back since then and thank him and the whole crew. And he just talked to me the whole time, and they let me. I probably shouldn't say this. I'm not really supposed to do this, but I was so worried about like my best friend who was pregnant, like coming out and seeing me. I was so worried about her because I was like, she's very pregnant. I was like, I didn't need her to be out there, but they let me like call my boss, and I was worried about work and whatever. So they life flighted me to the hospital. My first and only helicopter ride was was in South
Golly.
Florida, January 5th, 2015. And you know what? I will say, all of my people showed up. All
Mm.
of them showed up. I remember your mom tried to fly there. I would not let her. My friends, my brother, I would not let anyone. I was very stubborn back then. I'm still kind of that way, but I was like, I'm fine. But I had a very good
You're like, I'm
community.
fine. My pelvis is shattered. Like, gosh, Jennifer.
I could be dead. No, but like, and it's one of those things. Like, I remember, like,
Mm.
I was so delusional too. Like, I was still worried. I was still worried about this race that was in 2 weeks. So I was like, well, I literally, they were like pulling me off the stretcher. I remember they had me on the stretcher, it's like a movie, right? Like where they like rip off your dress, my favorite
Yeah.
dress. I remember the dress, but they're getting me on. They're just worried about like, they wanted to make sure, like, obviously my head seemed okay, but they didn't know like what was going on. So they life flighted me and like, I'm talking and I was
Yeah.
like, it was a whole thing that, and I remember they looked at all the things. And I remember talking to the EMTs on the way in being like, am I going to be able to run? I was like so worried about this run. And like,
It's
Everyone's
not
like, no,
funny, but
you're,
Jennifer,
it is.
gosh,
But like, that's all I cared about. And they're like, literally, like, you can't even walk, lady. Like, they're like, no one, I don't
I
think
have a
wanted to just
race
like,
in 2 weeks.
yeah, I don't think anyone wanted to just like tell me. And in fact, I'll tell you a story in a little bit that my friend was literally like, I don't know how they all dealt with me there, but they were like at one point, like you can't like months, like you're not going to be able to walk, like you can't
Yeah.
walk. And like it took me a minute to like even maybe it's that high delusional positivity that I have. It took me a little while to like really understand that, but they got
Yeah.
me there. Everyone showed up. I remember it was very painful. It was one of the obviously top five things that was the most painful in my life besides the other things that happened physically, like going through childbirth and things.
Yeah.
But I remember just being so grateful for the nurses. I was just grateful. I was grateful to be alive. I felt like this was my second chance. At the time, my then on again, off again with that 10-month period, he was in Vegas on a flight. He flew back and was by my side. So he's by my side. And like also that's a whole nother story. This was going to be my friend's like, he loves you. Like, this is your person. I still had such a heart. It was still so, I was still so, had such a wall up. I couldn't see it, but he was there for me
Mhm.
the whole time. My friend and her family were there for me the whole time. I had a surgery when I got there. He got back within like the same day. Um, and he helped take care of me through all of it, with my best friend. And, um, I had surgery. I think the surgery was like 4 or 5 hours long surgery that next morning. And they restructured. I call him the bone whisperer. Whoever his name is, I won't say his name, it doesn't matter. But he's literally the bone whisperer. And he restructured my hip. So I have some metal in
Wow.
my hip. And I remember being in the hospital and them saying at that moment, like, hey, like we don't know if you're gonna be able to run the same again. Like just they're trying to be realistic without like just telling me like the things I think. Um, but he did such a good job. And the recovery went so well that I've run obviously since then. We've talked about that. My whole goal, I'm a pretty stubborn person. So at one point, after I got back from the hospital, they actually I was still living with my ex. I hadn't moved out yet. So he did help take care of me and all the things. I remember just feeling very strongly like I'm going to run again. And it was one of those instances in life that we talk about. It's like, I have a choice. Like, what am I going to do with my brain? It was
Mm,
recovery is very painful from a pelvic fracture.
yeah, I
Um,
bet.
you can't walk. Um, you can't bend down. I also was stubborn because I wanted to go back to work as soon as I could. So like I stopped taking my pain medication. I do not suggest doing that at all. But I was like I was having sweats from like not taking it when I got home and stuff. I mean, there was a point I think at one time like I literally got stuck on the couch because you just can't move. Like it opened my eyes to a lot of things that people actually go through that can't walk. And I actually have a friend who is paralyzed, and like just thinking like what they have to go through. It just opened my whole world to that. But I
Mm,
was so great. I was grateful for the things. But at one point, I remember after they got me home or they got me back, I was calling people to take me to physical therapy. And finally, she's like, someone sat me down and is like, you're not starting physical therapy in 2 weeks. That's for a checkup. You will not be walking for months. You will not be able to take a step with this foot for months. And I was like, it was very like, what? Like, I don't know why it took
you're
me so
like,
long to get
no, I
that.
have a race.
Yeah, in my race.
I
So
think it's
yeah, but
hard
yeah,
for somebody like your brain knows your body a certain way. So it's difficult for somebody to just come in and like snap their fingers and say, like, get your brain to understand it is not what it was, at least not for right
right,
now.
right. And then also you add in just the things that have happened with what
Yeah.
we talked about. And but I did keep my positive spirit. But and we can go into this a little bit more about the healing of that because I really feel like the healing with this also goes on with the healing of this is the time that God literally, this is the time when it started, I would say, is 11 years ago when God got into my heart more. I mean, he's already with me, but like stop, like physically, like
Mhm.
I could not walk. I could not run. I could not mask my pain with the running. I could not move through those things. It was like we're stopping, like this hard stop. And when you've had these years of when you start running and you start hiding your pain, not hiding, but that is your pain. Like the pain is running and comparing it to life and the things. And you really have to look in the mirror to yourself. It is unraveling. And I really do think, really, the past decade or 11 years now has been an unraveling for me to get me to where I've been able to survive even in the last few years, the last 5 years of the loss that we've had. Um, and I'm so thankful for all of my family, all of my friends. I know they had like a group text going back and forth, like checking on me. One of my best friends kind of flew down and was like, okay, are you okay? Um, but I will say one of my goals was to walk by the time my friend had her baby, and he came early. He was born the end of March of that year. And I took my first steps like days before he was born. And
That's
that
so
was hard too.
awesome.
The recovery from that was, now that I'm thinking about it, it was not fun. Like it wasn't fun,
Yeah.
but it made me a little bit stronger. I'm a very stubborn person too. So when you tell me I can't do something, um, that sounds so prideful. I shouldn't be like that, but I'm like, we're going to figure this out. And Philippians 4:13 became my memory verse then, and it has stuck with me since then.
Yeah.
And
I
he's
think there's a
proven it.
lot to that. I think there's a lot to mindset and what you believe. The Bible says, as a person thinks in their heart, so are they. Like you're going to be what you believe you are. And what do you want to call it? Neuroscience has proven it in saying like self-fulfilling prophecy, like that stubbornness or that resilience or whatever you want to call it, delusion maybe on some days, like it probably got you through all the things. But I think you can see looking back. I mean, in hindsight, I think you see it, and I can kind of see it in your story. Like you were doing the things, but it's almost like you were trying to take control of the process. Like you were trying to put your hands on the control and like skip the grief or like power through it. And then God was like, nope.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And that's probably a good spot to kind of stop, because it's like,
Yeah.
hey, it's almost like wake up. But I look back, and it's so funny. We say this every time, like we don't know what's going to come out. We don't know how our stories are going to come out. We're on here, but thank you for this. And I'm looking forward to getting through the rest, which we're almost there. But life happens. It's hard. You got to keep getting back up. And I'm going to end with saying, like, we all have choices in what we do, what we think in our minds. And at this time is when my mindset really started shifting to like leaning on God and like in a different way. And then we'll fast forward later and go through the rest of it. But thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. That's amazing. We're gonna call that right there the point where you literally and figuratively could not run anymore. That was like your
Hard stop.
whole shift. And then we'll
Hard
pick back
stop.
up there next time. I
All
love
right. I love you.
you.
I love you, cousin. Talk
You're
to you soon.
awesome. Okay.
You're
Bye.
awesome. Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We truly hope this episode has touched your heart.
If someone came to mind while you were listening, please feel free to share this with them.
And if you have any questions or feedback for us, you can reach us at allthingsunbrokenpodcast@gmail.com.
Have an awesome day.